In this set of video in which we review the framework of the 5 forces in a different point of view, from a different point of view, in order to put in practice in detailed way the framework, we are now in the production structure. So we already seen structure and marketing, and now we check the variables relevant in the production area. In that area, to weight the forces and to understand if your industry is attractive, you have to look at the 3 variables. The first variable is the ratio between fixed and variable cost. The second is the weight of the exit barriers. And the third is the forces actionated by scale and scope. So move on the first one is fixed and variable. The point is that if you have high fixed cost as a structure cost in the industry or in your company, you need to sell at whatever price it takes in order to fill up your capacity. So the practitioner usually say that industry with high fixed costs tend to be more competitive on pricing. The reality is a bit different. The point is how much the fixed cost in your product is in relative to the value added you are giving to the customer. So if you have higher cost, high fixed cost, but your added value on top of those fixed cost is high, you don't have, let's say, the issue of having to fill up the capacity, because even if you sell few products, the added value that you are giving to your customer is giving you the right to have an higher price, so you have profits that can cover the unabsorption of your fixed cost. Usually, fixed cost industry has thin margins because they already compete on price, and therefore they need to fill up the capacity, competing again in this vicious loop on price. But if you look, for example, at luxury products have high fixed cost, especially marketing and branding related, but they don't compete on price, they compete on differentiation. So even if in that industry, luxury product industry, there is a high fixed cost, you don't really have too much competition. And in that case, the reason why is the value added that is high, and so you cannot define the luxury industry as a high fixed cost industry, even if you need a huge amount of fixed cost in branding and marketing to operate and compete there. The second point is that fixed cost means either you have to fill up a huge amount of capacity in the production, or you have to destock very quickly. So for example, all the fresh products has a costly storing, not a costly producing part, but again, storing is a cost, and therefore in the fresh products, again, you compete a lot on prices because you cannot store fresh products for too much time. Then there is a third analysis to be done on the fixed cost structure of your industry, that is how these evolve from time to time. Because if fixed structure must be increased in steps that provide huge investment in new capacity as a one-stop shop, so you have to increase your capacity a lot in order to build up a new capacity way. In that case, you are creating a disequilibrium, or you are breaking the balance between supply and demand, because you are increasing a lot the supply, creating a huge amount of production fixed cost, and on the other side, the demand is not increasing in the same with the same rapidity of your new capacity factory, for example. And therefore, in this case, industry from time to time have unbalanced among demand and supply, and you can have in that case disequilibrium within the industry, and you can have an attractive period or collapse of overall profit of the industry. Second point is exit barriers. So in the moment in which, as we know, the company is not getting enough profits to cover the average cost of capital, investor will exit from that investment. Investor will not invest in that company. And in that case, little by little companies that are just above the weighted average cost of capital and go below that, they should exit the industry because they are no more competitive. They are not providing the minimum amount of profit for their investors. But there are cases in which this does not happen, and this is when exiting the industry has a cost. This cost is giving a barrier to exit. So which are these barriers? The first one is specialized assets. So you are running a company with a below average cost of capital return, but if you leave the industry, your assets will be completely devalued because they are very specialized in that industry or in that product. So there is a huge investment losses there that usually, even if logically those investments are sunk costs, so you should not take into account that, but let's say there is a huge cost in exiting the industry, and therefore managers and investors keep to produce, trying to find a way to come back above the average cost of capital threshold. The second point is fixed cost of exit. Exiting an industry, closing a company has a cost. So you have to take into consideration the fact that if you decide to exit the industry because you are just below the threshold of profitability, you will incur a lot of cost. For example, for the layoff of the labor, for the devaluation of your stocks, or for the fact that you have to keep some stocks to serve clients in the future. The third point is interrelationship between other division or business unit of the company. So maybe in that industry, in that specific business unit, you are losing money, but that business unit is supplying or has some kind of relationship with another unit or another division of the company which is making a lot of money. Therefore, in that case, the balance is found outside the industry within the company, who is accepting to lose money in one side of the company within a specific industry because he's getting an additional profit on another unit of the company in another industry. The third point is emotional barriers. So managers, employees, maybe the family who is owning the company just do not want to exit because it's too emotionally costly for them. And then you can have social or government restrictions. So in some cases, the government wants to keep an industry alive just for social reason, for employment and so on. And so you, let's say, have some restriction to exiting the industry, not because of you or because of your structure of the cost, but because of external government and social pressure. Then we have scale and scope. These are probably the most important element that, in the Porter's view, are blocking companies to enter in an industry. But in the reality, scale and scope are also common within the industry point of strategic competition. And what is an economy of scale? It's quite evident. You can produce more pieces, allocating less overall fixed cost to all those pieces. So if you produce more, there is a cost advantage for you that are the biggest volume guy in the industry. On the other side, if you want to enter that industry, or just if you want to grow against the big guy in the industry, you have to deal with that scale because you are competing against economy of scale. If you are the biggest one in the industry, you have economy of scale on your side. Again, here there is a link between the structure of the cost, because you have economy of scale usually where fixed costs are relevant. The other side of the economy of scale is economy of scope. Economy of scope is when a company is able to use and leverage some part of its structure, for example, a brand or a know-how, in different part of the industry. So there is a scope in having, for example, a strong brand that is used as an umbrella brand. This is giving scope, huge scope instead of huge volume, huge scope to the company, and you can have a competitive advantage based on that element. Then there is also, let's say, a number of economy of scale in terms of industry in which there is a bit of vertical integration. This is because whenever you have an integration within, for example, your channels, or you have an integration with your suppliers, then you are creating a group, an integrated part of the value system as defined by Porter. And in that case, you can have, under some condition, a better strategic position, because you can sell to the final customer something that is built in house, so production and distribution are together, or on the other side, you can purchase some supplies from some companies that you own, so there is a vertical integration supplier advantage. This kind of scale scope economy and the integration within the industry are strong element of strategy and industry structure within the industry, and also, as is here reported, in the case of you want to enter an industry where scale and scope are key to compete. Now we have to move on threats. Threats are things upon which your company, your industry must take a look in order to avoid some risk and some threats to your profitability. The idea here is that we put together in the operationalized model all these forces. So there is a force here from new entrants. So do we have barriers or not for new entrants? There is a force from substitutes. Do we have a price and a positioning that is protecting us from potential substitute products? And then we have two additional forces, that is integration. So supplier can have the force to integrate in our industry, or distributors or buyers can integrate in our industry. So these four forces are, let's say, in some way, four different categories of threats that every industry has to face. And now have a look on the detailed or these four potential threats. The first one is integration. You can have integration both sides. So you can have integration from buyers. In this case, your buyer can backward integrate into your industry. So let's suppose you are in a business-to-business industry, in business-to-business, your business-to-business company. Your clients can produce in-house what you sell them. This is giving them two key negotiation points. They know a lot about the cost structure, and they can, let's say, in some way, playing with suppliers. One is in-house supplier, one is you. So they can force or change the level of negotiation on the volumes they give to one and another. So you are basically competing with your client in that case. Then there is the forward integration. So suppliers are entering your industry. Here, there is a key point, because when you deal with your supplier and you want, let's say, to get more value from them, lowering the price, for example, there is always the threat that they overcome you and they go directly to the final customer, to your customer. Let's suppose of the dealing among Netflix and Disney for the Disney content on the Netflix platform. At the end of the story, there was a tweet that Disney entered directly competing with Netflix to direct selling a platform to final customers, and that's what exactly happened with Disney Plus as some of dealings among the two players. And then we have the entry deterring price. That's an incredibly important concept. That is, there is a price above which, given the fact that you are getting a lot of profit, you are, let's say, creating the desire of other companies and other investors to invest in your industry. The entry deterring price is the overall general average price given a quality and some concept and some feature of the product of your industry. In every industry, we have a lot of, let's say, different prices. But the point is that those different prices usually are there because there are different, let me say, qualities or features or different segments. But at the end, the overall pricing of an industry is giving an overall return above the weighted average cost of capital of that industry. If this price, if the ability to set that price at a high level is creating a lot of profit, in that case, usually you are, let's say, creating the preconditions to have competitors and new entrants entering your competitive arena. So you have also to look at how much is this EDP. The advice is not to lower the price if the EDP is too high, but if you have a high price, you must expect other companies enter your competitive arena. And then there is the substitute price performance index. In this case, there is another force, that is this one, who is pressing the overall profitability of the industry. That is the performance that substitute products are giving to the same customer. So if our performance is 100, in whichever scale you want to measure added value to a customer, and our price is 10, we have to consider that if there is someone who is providing 60 in terms of value, is pricing 50, is price performance of that substitute industry, it's better off our industry. Therefore, we should adapt, we should realign the price to be in the same price performance, let's say, range of other industry that offer substitute products to our same customer. So at the end, having seen during these 3-4 videos the 4 areas, you can see that going through these 4 areas and giving detailed description of these 16 areas that you can little by little describe, you will have a clear understanding of which is the structure of the forces acting on the competitive environment of your industry, being them forces that are focused on the value system. So here, and you see them clearly in this list, or forces that are in some way treating from outside, suppliers, client, new entrants, and substitute your overall profitability. And describing in detail all these points, you can have a clear appraisal, a clear understanding of the present industry structure and potential evolution of that industry structure. That is the first point you have to have clear